The Tennessee Titans go out and trade for all-star, as I call it, Pro Bowl, all-pro, superstar wide receiver Julio Jones from the Atlanta Falcons for a second and fifth round pick. The trade has not officially been made official according to Shefty and a lot of other people. It's got about a 24 to 48-hour window, presuming that Julio passes his physical and the Tennessee kind of signs on the dotted line in terms of accepting the terms of the trade, with it being a second and fifth round pick. Kyle, where does this put the Titans if this trade does officially go through? And do you think that they can make a run in this AFC with the acquisition of a potential All-Pro and Julio Jones?
Well, I think as far as the AFC goes, it puts them in a top 3, top 4 position in the AFC. That's how I see it. And I think, honestly, when Indianapolis, when they added Carson Wentz, I think that addition to their team brought them closer to the Titans as the best team in the AFC South. With this move, however, I do believe that there is a slight gap between the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. So just as it currently stands right now, just prisoner of the moment, I would give the slight edge to the Tennessee Titans just because, dude, when you add a all-pro receiver, a Hall of Fame receiver eventually in Julio Jones, that's going to be a nightmare defensively for any team that goes up against him. It's like you mentioned at the top. Look, you got to combat against Ryan Tannehill, who has become one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the last couple of seasons with Tennessee. Derrick Henry, who is just a nightmare to tackle at the running back spot. And then you got A.J. Brown to cover in the wideout position on top of Julio Jones. Man, that's a lot to ask for defenses to go up against those guys. I think offensively, I think the Titans are going to be able to score at will just because you have way too many dynamic playmakers at the running back position, at the quarterback position, and now the wideout spot. So, look, yeah, they had A.J. Brown and Corey Davis last year, and in all sense here, they upgraded by getting Julio Jones. So, granted, they're not getting what I would assume is prime Julio Jones from a couple years ago when they were making their Super Bowl run, but it's Julio Jones, and he is going to be fun to watch for Tennessee this year. I think he's
yourself.
He's going to get. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets over 1,000 yards easy, just because I think he's going to be able to light it up for Tennessee. And I think, just by my estimation right now, it does make them the favorite in the AFC South. But I'm not going to go as far to say that they're instantaneously the favorite to come out of the AFC, just because there's too many good teams with the Chiefs and the Bills that are ahead of them. And I think both of those teams are more well-rounded than what the Titans currently have right now, just because the Titans defense is just hit or miss with me.
No, it's not hit or miss. It's awful. They did not upgrade. They lost Jadeveon Clowney and they lost Malcolm Butler. They're pretty bad. They're not looking good. And that is with full confidence I can say that in terms of off-season acquisitions.
But now I need to get your take. Now, what does this move do for you? What's your take about this one?
So I'm looking at this as an overall football move, right? I'm excluding the Colts, right? So typically when you play against a team like Tennessee prior to the Julio Jones acquisition, right? Your main threat, your main focal point defensively, if you're playing against them, is to stack the box and try to stop Derrick Henry at every facet of the word. Anything you can do, whether that's a blitz, whether that's a zone read, and anything you try to do is to stop that man, because we all know that Tennessee lives and dies by the play action. You deal with the one-on-one matchups with A.J. Brown on the outside and maybe some safety help over the top. So you probably don't double A.J. depending on the circumstances of the game, right? That's no longer a thing. You can't stack the box. You cannot double A.J. Brown. You double Julio. So I think this puts Tennessee in immediate AFC contention, and I'm predicting them to go to the AFC Championship against Kansas City this season, because they were already scary enough with Derrick Henry and just A.J. Brown. That play action boded wonders for that offense. Ryan Tannehill looked like a Pro Bowl quarterback in a lot of instances with just a fake handoff and A.J. Brown going deep, or A.J. Brown over the middle, or Corey Davis, or Jono Smith, whatever. Now you add, like Kyle said, a future Hall of Fame receiver, an all-pro who does everything at the wide receiver position, jump ball, route running, breakaway speed, and blocking. It immediately puts a team that was already a threat to AFC teams on a good night to catapult them into contenders for a Super Bowl. Because you have to pick your poison. You double Julio, you leave 7 in the box, Derrick Henry takes off. You single cover both receivers, you stack the box, you have one of those Pro Bowl receivers wide open. So what are you going to do? What packages do you set up for if you're in the AFC South to try to combat? You have Pro Bowl, and potential Pro Bowl and A.J. Brown. No, A.J. Brown did make the Pro Bowl this year. So you have 3 Pro Bowl offensive players in the Tennessee Titans offense, and Ryan Tannehill, who's an above-average quarterback, in his recent resurgence with the Titans. I think if you're playing against Tennessee, your only hope isn't stopping them defensively, is beating them in a shootout and hoping that Tannehill overthrows or that somebody drops something. Because if you really try to break this down, they have the potential to drain the clock with Derrick Henry late in the game. They have the big play dynamic to go with the long ball, short ball, and they also have possession receivers. And then you go out and look at the efficiency of Ryan Tannehill's accuracy, throwing down the check down, throwing the deep ball, and everything else that he can do. And then Mike Vrabel's offense that they've been running since they got there, it's a formula for disaster for defenses, man. As a Colts fan, our offense is obviously better than our offense. Excuse me, our defense is obviously better than our offense. But in this case, we don't have 2 corners to go out there and lock up both. We have a good linebacking core. Obviously, we lost Anthony Walker. We have Bobby Okereke and EJ Speed and a litany of other backs. But Darius Leonard's the first that comes to mind. We have DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart and some other good defensive linemen. But how in the hell are we going to stop this offense from moving downfield? If this is a short yardage situation, Derrick Henry's mowing over most lines. If this is a 3rd and long, you can't even rule out a fucking Hail Mary or a post route to the corner on the opposite side of the field because Julio Jones is so dynamic. So I think this just spreads out the offense 10 times more. I think this makes Ryan Tannehill's job a lot easier. And I think A.J. Brown has one of the best seasons he's had in his career, if not the best season, because you have to double Julio. He's been doubled since he's been in the league. You leave him one-on-one with any cornerback that isn't Jalen Ramsey, and this is going to be a nightmare for all defensive coordinators. This move is so big for the Titans. This move is so bad for the Colts that I don't know what else to say other than people better buckle up because the Titans is coming, bro.